Hey everyone, Geriatric here. Politico, believe it or not, it's not easy to do this, but we actually got a somewhat negative article or an admission from Politico regarding Joe Biden. Here's today's article. Biden's poll numbers aren't just bad, they're getting worse. Trump's vote share in national polls is higher than at any time in the past year. Gee, I wonder why. President Joe Biden's numbers have been getting worse. Yep, that's right. They have been getting worse. Numbers started in New York Times Siena College poll show Trump ahead in 4 of the 6 swing states. Yikes. But more indicators of Biden's electoral peril soon followed. The president's standing in head-to-head matchups with Trump is falling. Among the latest surveys this month from 13 separate pollsters, Biden's position is worse than their previous polls in all but 2 of them. Biden's poll numbers have gotten worse. So here's Biden's numbers with time. So like Fox News, he was at 49% in October, and now on November 13th, he's dropped to 46. So he keeps dropping on all the different polls, 46, 44, 45, 43, 47 to 46, and then just one here on Rasmussen, 43 to 46. And while polls suggest most of the movement comes from voters abandoning Biden, who might become undecided but not swing to supporting Trump, the Republican has also started to gain steam. Trump's vote share in the national polling average is higher now than at any point in the past year, so Biden's dropping, Trump is moving up, despite all the prosecutions of Trump, which I might add there. The state-level data are just as striking. In addition to those New York Times polls, within the last week and a half, other surveys have shown Trump ahead by 8 points in Arizona. Hello? 8 points in Arizona, the state that Trump actually won in 2020, and 5 points in Michigan, another state that Trump actually won. Biden's recent slide and his political predicament, some 11 months before Election Day, Jesus Christ, guys, it's less than a year, represent a confluence of slippage with reliable Democratic constituencies like young voters, slipping with young voters, the outbreak of the war in the Middle East, the rise of independent third-party candidates could siphon votes from both Biden and Trump. Biden is losing young voters, really, after he promised to pay off all their college debts? But it's unclear how many. This week's NBC News poll had a stunning result. Trump led Biden among young voters younger than 35, 46 to 42%. So Trump has a 4-point lead, despite everything that's going on and all the propaganda, with those 35 and younger. That's pretty good for Trump. Even though that was well within the high margin of error for such a small subgroup, other polls also show a close race with what has been a reliable Democratic constituency. Biden had single-digit leads among voters, 18 to 34. Fox News, Biden plus 7. Quinnipiac, Biden plus 9. Trump led Biden in all 4 polls among all voters. Only a few polls show Biden with a lead among young voters that approaches his 2020 margins. But they are the exception, not the rule. That's prompted a debate over whether Trump is really making the deep inroads with young voters the polling suggests, or if those numbers are an artifact of some kind of polling bias. One popular theory speculates that liberal young voters who are unenthusiastic about Biden and his party over his administration's support for Israel in its war with Hamas, for example, aren't participating in the polls, even if many of them will vote for him next November. See, here we go again with Politico trying to make excuses for Biden, trying to make excuses for him. But Biden, the oldest president in history, has never polled well with younger voters. Well, that's why he has to promise to pay off their student loans, right? And telephone polls of the aforementioned above, all but Morning Consult, were conducted over the phone. They're a difficult way to reach younger voters, I agree with that. Biden's approval rating are heading downward, while Trump's vote share is spiking. Biden's sagging margins against Trump are one thing, but there are 2 other trend lines under the hood of these polls that spell trouble for the incumbent. First, his approval rating, already historically low for a president at this point in his first term, has been ticking down. Biden's approval rating dipped down to 38%. In 538's average earlier this month, the lowest since July of 2022. Similarly, when Biden hit 40% in Real Clear Politics average this month, it was his lowest reading since August of 2022. Meanwhile, Trump's numbers are rising. Dating back to a little more than a year, Real Clear Politics average has had Trump hovering in between 42 and 46% in a head-to-head matchup with Biden. Not only did Trump break 46% for the first time earlier this month, this week he inched above 47%. about equal to his vote share in the 2020 election. Most of the polls that show Trump with a majority of the vote don't include undecided voters, a questionable methodological decision this far out from Election Day, especially in a hypothetical race between the two candidates, is disliked by the electorate. But even polls that do report undecided voters show Trump ticking up. That's the important thing. Even with undecided voters, Trump is ticking upward. Like the Fox News survey, which had Trump with a slight lead over Biden, 50-46. Is that called slight, 4%? It's not just the Middle East. Biden's been slipping in the polls for months. Bingo. It's not just the Middle East. It started with the day he came in and signing all those executive orders while Nancy Pelosi was staring over his shoulder to tell him where to sign or what to sign. He didn't even know what he was signing. Ruined our energy industry, caused inflation. Gee, do you think maybe it's more than just the Middle East? It's common to try attributing any change in the president's poll numbers to recent events, such as Israel war with Hamas. But for Biden, the reality is a little bit more complicated. The average shows a fairly steady decline in Biden's approval rating dating back to May, and they go all the way back to April. Meanwhile, Trump's average favorable rating has actually been increasing over the last 2 months, rising from 39% on September 1st to 42% as of Wednesday. Swing states are moving with the rest of the country away from Biden. Swing states are moving with the rest of the country away from Biden. What are they going to do? They got to get rid of him. They've got to get rid of him. They got to get someone else in. They want Newsom. They want someone else. The bad news for Biden isn't confined to the national polls, and that's despite a 3-month-long advertising campaign to boost his numbers. What? Since mid-August, Biden and the DNC have spent $12 million on swing state ads. I wonder what's in those ads. I'm not in a swing state or in California, that's for sure. According to the tracking firm Ad Impact, for most of all of the fall, Biden spent $1 million a week, though it's been cut in half. It isn't helping. In addition to the New York Siena poll showing Trump leading Biden in Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. What? Trump led Biden in 6 of 7 swing states surveyed by Morning Consult Bloomberg News. There were also some eye-popping results in other Biden won states from 2020. Trump was ahead by 8 points last week in Arizona. Trump ahead by 8 points in Arizona. Are they going to try to rig Arizona again like they did in 2020, like they did to Kerry Lake in 2022? Are they going to be able to get away with it this time? Third-party candidates are having an uncertain impact. One of the most striking things about the Donald poll numbers for Biden is that they come in a head-to-head matchup and don't include third-party candidates. Many pollsters don't yet include matchups with independent candidates like RFK and Cornel West and Green Party candidate Jill Stein. So there's little evidence right now to measure their impact. Trump's lead over Biden average is smaller when Kennedy is added, but slightly larger when West and Stein are also added. Those mixed signals mean it's too early to say exactly how independents are going to affect this race, but it's clear Biden's deficit is not a result of third-party candidates or potentially looming, like Manchin, who retired. There's a lot of people leaving Congress, and they could make it harder for Biden to recover, especially if the independent candidates gobble up significant shares, support among groups like young voters. Really, it's about the swing states. So Trump is moving up, Biden is moving down, but even Politico, and these news rags, most of them, they are pro-Democrat. So for them to have to come out here and admit this, that Biden is dropping, I think that I don't know what all the rules are, but I think the DNC would love for Biden not to run, and they would love to start pushing someone else. Of course, he is the incumbent. He's definitely going to have an advantage over most of the other candidates in the Democratic Party, but the general population is very unfavorable on this guy. Every day that goes by, this guy's brain melts more and more. And you can't hide it anymore. They're going to keep trying to hide it. This guy, I'm not going to say he has dementia, but things are just going down for him mentally. All the decisions that have been made since he's been president nothing has worked. It's all been inflation, government takeover of everything, and it's just been bad news. It's just been bad news since the day he came in. He has done nothing right. And the media eventually can't cover for him anymore. For Politico to start doing this, we want to watch other news sites come in and see what they have to say about it. We already know about Fox News. So I'll go ahead and continue to do this. If anyone listening to this, I don't know what you call this, a podcast or whatever, I'm going to put this up to Twitter first. If anyone listening to this, if you enjoy this, please let me know, and I'll do this more often, okay? Thanks, guys. Have a great day.